Thank you. And this, oh, it works. Brilliant. Welcome. My name is Thomas. Thank you for the introductions. Never tried that before. 25 years in IT. Whoa, you're getting old. That's how it is. No problem. So this presentation should not be about Nutanix as a company, I know. And of course, it won't be completely. What I want to talk to you about today is some of the challenges or some of the trends that we see in IT in general, and some recommendation for how you should maybe look at running infrastructure projects or projects in this cloud era time. So let me start by a small quote. Everybody, I believe, truly believe that in 20 years' time we will look back at how we're driving IT today and the complexity that we accept and simply shake our heads. And 20 years, if we look 20 years back, it looked probably like we do today also, but the time is changing so fast, especially when we talk about cloud. And this lecture was about the biggest challenges within your current data center environment or infrastructure, and the absolutely number one is your traditional thinking. We are stuck in many ways in the way we think, in the way we do tenders, in the way we run projects, in the way we organize our IT organizations. Very siloed, very specialized teams. We identify ourselves as a Cisco network specialist or a VMware specialist. And that's actually keeping us from really doing the big and important steps we need to do in modernizing how we run IT in general. So let me move into a bit about cloud. It's always an exciting time of the year in January, February timeframe. All the big analyst companies is making these big new trends. And this is one of the 5 major trends that IDC announced that they have, that cloud is moving back on-premise. Now we spent a couple of years with cloud first strategies and moving everything out, and that was the only way to do it. It's not like everything is moving back, because if you dive into it, and I'm going to show you, if we dive a bit into it, it's not about cloud as a place being Google or Amazon or Asia is wrong. It's just not perfect fit for everything. So we really need to start to think about how do we in the next coming years, maybe until everything can run in the cloud, how do we close the gap between the public cloud we want and what we also have on-premise or hosted with a service provider. Sometimes, I mean, Google is my friend, like it's probably your friend as well. Has anybody tried to Google that word, repatriation? I think it's a difficult word. That's actually kind of like the word for how many people, or cloud repatriation, how many is actually pulling things out of cloud? What is going the other way? And it's scary. You should try it. There's one slide I will walk through here, and that's one slide out of 3,000 slides that IDC launched. This is one of those busy slides that we probably never reach. We take the first line that 85% in this situation reports that they have some kind of cloud repatriation activities, meaning 85% of the companies asked have activities of pulling things out of cloud into on-premise. I'll walk through this one slide because it's actually very interesting, and then you can reflect on that before we move forward. So this one slide, which is out of the 3,000, it came in June 19. And this, of course, is part of what built this mega trend saying things are moving back, right? So 85% mentioned that the activity is to move stuff back from the cloud. They also said more or less that they're moving it back to an on-premise private cloud or an hosted private cloud, a cloud the company owns themselves, either in their own data center or out. What's most interesting actually about this slide is that if you look at which company that has the highest level of activity of moving things back, it's the companies that had a public cloud only strategy. Meaning the more cloud only strategy you had, the majority of those starting to pull things back. it's also the very early early adopters in tech in general, and those who actually grew a lot in the cloud. So things are moving back. It's not all of it, some of it. The reason, or what are they actually moving back? That's actually the lift and shift workloads. So if you should be really look into what is it that we have on-premise today that we are trying to move into cloud, all the great workloads about DevOps, about AI and all that, move it to cloud. But don't just lift and shift normal VMware workloads into the cloud and believe that just runs better and cheaper and more secure. Because 56% of what they are moving back is those applications and workloads they simply just took and moved out because they had a strategy saying we need to be in that place called cloud. The second thing is actually when things goes into production from DevOps, right? So development in the cloud, great. Production, many cases great as well, but it might be good to be able to bring it back. And the reason top drivers is security, cost, performance, compliance, and complexity. This is actually worldwide. Just to be fair, but if security is number one, for example, in the US, it would be a clear number one in Europe. We see it differently. We are much more focused on two-factor identification and stuff like that they don't really pay too much attention on to, at least not in the level that we do in Europe. So if security is an issue other places in the world, it will have a huge issue in Europe. And then they ask another question on the same slide. So how much of that of the workload you have in cloud now would like to move back or expect to move back? 49%. So don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with cloud. I'm not saying that cloud is wrong. I'm just saying we need to think cloud in a bigger perspective, right? Cloud is not a place. It should be a way you drive and run your business or run your IT. So I'm gonna get back to that now. So we now say it's Nutanix, and it's not about that, but we try to communicate around the topic we call not a cloud first strategy, but a cloud smart strategy. I will try to pull you through the steps of our mind right now without making it into a sales pitch, and please stop me if you think it is. But short-term pain, long-term gain. That's definitely a mantra we have internally within our company. Our CEO loves to say it. It's going to hurt before it gets really good. And I know it will hurt a bit to start to think differently and take some of the first big steps in order to become more effective and more cloud-like yourself. So infrastructure projects, that's primarily where we start to have conversations with a company. They have a project, they have an infrastructure looking like a storage SAN infrastructure, some networking, storage networking, some servers, virtualization layer, application on top, tons of management interfaces. Basically, from a cost perspective, we think 3 to 5 years ahead. When we deploy with specialists and probably also bigger implementation things. Management, we need specialists within each area. If we have to scale, it can be a hassle. If we decide on the wrong storage controllers and we needed to swap those at the wrong time, or too early, it can be costly as well. And support could be many support hubs. So that's the classic world. This is what brings us into a cloud mode, because this is not pay as you grow. It's not pay for what you use. It's not simple, it's not easy, it's not click, click, click. This is everything cloud isn't, right? It's completely opposite. So we do understand why cloud has this focus. And that's what brings us to this strategy about we want to move out and fast as possible. There's some gap, there's a void in between here. I'll try to explain what we believe at least you need to close that gap between your current infrastructure and the public cloud, because those two things have to work together. It's not either or, it's both. So again, challenges, we're moving to the IDC. Again, this is the newest top 3 major challenges in your current data center. Automation and orchestration in general. Make it simple, make it automated. orchestrate it easy. We just saw the hassle about the multi-layer, specialist teams, many administration points and so forth. Multi-cloud management is actually also an issue, we all know that, and legacy infrastructure. You can get all the material behind this if you want to dive into it. We only have 25 minutes, but that's the top 3 things they mention as key challenges in current data center. If we then look at what is then the top 3 priorities you should have looking at your current data center, 1, you have to modernize your data center infrastructure. 2, adopt AI for management. So really look into what kind of tools will I be able to get for my new data center infrastructure. Basically, we should go from automated to it's self-served, right? And then introduce container and microservices is definitely also a big topic, because when we start really to get that into our system and part of how we run things, it starts to get really cloud. You can move those things much easier between clouds. So I would talk about modernizing the data center because I think that's a big step. And if we should run effective hypercloud or multi-cloud environment, we need to fix our private cloud first. So getting back to that. Oh, you saw it, damn. There's at least one thing in the data center we need to do. We need really to look at those complex components that we for some reason still have that is not a part of how they build, for example, Asia, Google, and so forth. There is some components that have disappeared in the way effective data centers are run right now. And one of them is definitely the SAN, storage area network. We all remember why we have them, right? Because storage was actually, I've been in the storage business for many years. It went downhill like that for the storage vendors. And then suddenly VMware came 2001, 2, and said, if you want to do all these smart things about moving things between servers, you need a storage area network. And I had 10 good years in storage. And everybody wanted a storage area network. If we look now in the cloud data centers, you have to remember it's simply a data center, right? It's also servers and stuff. There's no SAN. Another component which we could talk about being a commodity component could be the hypervisor itself. I know a lot of companies probably look at the hypervisor as being that's who we are. We will not be able to run our business without VMware or Hyper-V or whatever hypervisor we choose. But as soon as we start the journey towards cloud, we tend to forget that, right? We're moving things out. What hypervisor is AWS running if you don't ask them to pay for VMware? It's just a commodity component. It grounds or it protects a workload and makes it virtual and movable. That's it. So there's a couple of components you need to think of. Do I really need them on the long term? So this you need to modernize your data center or next generation data center and think about that. And how could that look? What would we recommend to look at? I think you need to look at web scale architecture or hyper-converged infrastructure solutions, or something like where you start to build a node-based data center of resources. So you add in compute nodes that includes the 3 things we basically need: CPU, memory, and storage, right? That's what our applications basically need. Move them in and scale as you go, as you need it. So integrated full stack systems. The servers will win the hardware game. I'm confident about that. So it will be a server game. Servers will become nodes, resource nodes, then you add in. It's exactly the same as happens in the big Asia or Google or whatever data centers. If we collapse the stack and make it a software-defined thing where hardware is one thing and the rest is software, we also start to be able to build single management interfaces, full open APIs for the entire IT stack. Think about that in troubleshooting issues. If you had one management interface that controls a full stack and is automated, self-healing and all that, you don't need specialists anymore, you need generalists. So you will have an IT staff of 5, 6, whatever people that normally did everything themselves, where you can have one that does everything, or a group of people that does everything. This actually model also changed how we invest. So going from 3 to 5 years kind of mindset, you buy what you need because you can simply add resources as you grow. Implementation is much easier. It's click, click, whatever, some network cables, and the rest is simply taken care of automatically by the software. Management, we talked about that. Scalability, also mentioned that. You add nodes when you need them. And service support can also be down to much fewer support points. This platform itself is simply a modernizing how you run your day-to-day data centers. But we need to maybe bring it to the next level also, where we start to look at it as a private cloud. And that kind of infrastructure, or that kind of structure, is basically build the foundation to run an effective private cloud with self-service portaling and stuff like that. So, but we need to look at it then as more as a platform. So what we deliver basically is this platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service platform that is simple, and all the data services in one big pool, so object, files, whatever in one place, automation, orchestration, self-service, built-in backup solutions, and then a single management or control plane that also includes the public clouds, right? So you start to be able to place your workloads and move your workloads between an effective private cloud that you own yourself and the public cloud providers based on cost, compliance, security, whatever, user experience, and competences. So you can make clever decisions. And IDC actually also made a report about, I mean, the swap. That's actually the swap from classic data center to the new data center, where it reports dramatically savings in TCO, fewer unplanned downtime, much more effectivity of the people that actually runs it, lower cost and stuff like that. Again, this is a report we'll be more than happy to share with you if you want to dive more into it. That is what we call smart cloud, right? Start to connect and bridge the gaps. I will actually give you the story one more time on kind of like a whiteboard, elevator pitch thing. And I hope if there still is some questions that you can get the answers here. So let's say most companies buy, for good reasons, have a cloud-first strategy. And a cloud-first strategy is typically one of those big cloud providers, Google, Amazon, and so forth, which have a lot of great things to offer. It all starts that we have our own current data center platform, right? We try to make it easier by adding services, get somebody to manage it for us and help us and make it a bit more easy. But the cloud communicated something about cost, security, and flexibility. It was so clear that there were so many benefits out there. So of course we wanted to move 100% to the cloud. And we also agreed that the current platform we all have is old. It's an old way to do it. That's the platform we will laugh about in 20 years' time at least, and say, oh, did we really do that? We just saw that cost and security definitely is one of the drivers, and even actually also flexibility, or to that not all workloads maybe is fully suited for cloud. So maybe it's not 100%. Maybe it's 50-50 or 70-30 or 30-70, whatever. But at least there is a mix you need to fix. Do we really place the 50% on the old platform we all agreed now is not interesting? We need to do something. That's what we talk about this hybrid multi-cloud environment. So you need to build at some point in time a more clever private cloud. If you own it yourself or have a company supporting you in owning that or controlling it, but you need your own private cloud. Then you need to make it one ecosystem. You need a cloud cockpit. You need to be able to sense, feel, deploy, move, so that you make a new world to run your IT. You need to consider how to add compliance and governance structure into that as well. We have a lot of stories about that. And that's basically, again, coming back to the cloud smart. 3 things we recommend that you do in every project when you look at your own data center or how to build a private cloud or whatever you do actually, you need to think about how you bridge the gap between the public cloud and the rest. You need to establish some kind of cloud cockpit. You need to own that. You cannot outsource that. You cannot outsource responsibility to make clever decisions on where you run your stuff. And you need to build a strategy as well that includes a solid exit strategy, right? So you don't think about locking. We talked about that we need to make it less complex. Actually, we are doing I think we all have spent in IT lots of time to make it flexible and don't get into silos. Most of the companies right now that had a clear cloud strategy is building very, very big silos. And they forgot to think about, if this cloud is not the right for me, how do I get out of it? Can I get out of it? What will be the cost of getting out? What if there's a better solution tomorrow if one of the other vendors? What if my CFO asked me to save 20% of the IT budget? That would probably happen even though you're in the cloud. How do you do it? And then the yellow means? Okay, I'm also done. And we basically say you can save 40 to 60% of the cost related to this if you build an effective multi-cloud environment. So that is basically it. Whoa. So that was it. If there's any questions, I'll love to answer them. I try to make it a non-Nutanix. The best would have been just to say Nutanix all the time. I actually did it twice now. That's good. Does it make sense at all? Okay. Shit. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. We do have a booth out here, so if you want to learn more or get some of the reports or a business card, come by. Thank you.